Okay, great. Well, now the NRA is suing them, and I don't blame them. By the way, there's an article in the New York Post today. You want to know why people are leaving New York in droves? It's only a matter of time before a homeless leprosy outbreak. I mean, that's how dire conditions are in New York, just like L.A., just like Chicago, just like San Francisco. Imagine that. All the money the people in those states pay in taxes, and you can't even create facilities for the homeless to go to the bathroom, never mind maybe get a hot meal, maybe get something. Pretty interesting. So we'll get to all that in the course of the program today. We have Donald Trump on the agenda. You know, one of the things that we should be so happy about in this country, those Americans, I say the forgotten men and women. We have the John McNaughton painting called The Forgotten Man. It's hanging up. Linda, maybe you can take a picture of it. We'll put it up on the website.
Okay, boss.
Okay, boss, thank you. But Democrats, because 2016 was about the forgotten men and women. Now, if you look at what the Democrats are offering, everything's free. Well, I guess there's a certain psychological appeal to the idea that you don't have to take care of yourself anymore. Oh, thank goodness. Pre-K is taken care of. College is taken care of. Every grade in between is taken care of. Never mind the institutional failure that is the Democratic Party and their unholy alliance with teachers unions. Yeah, we pay more than any other industrialized nation in the country, but we're like 37th reading and writing. Look at Baltimore. How do you have 13 high schools without a single kid proficient in math? And all these other high schools, not a single kid proficient in math and reading. I mean, it's unbelievable. And what have I always pointed out? I know that the identity politics game and the race card is played, as we've chronicled so many times on this program, by the Democrats every election season. But what parties' policies benefit the forgotten men? Of moral clarity until Donald Trump joined him as well. But anyway, you know, look at the guys. So if that's 4.5 million jobs created for minorities in America, and the opposite happened under Biden, Obama, and yet the race card is always played. Washington Post today pointed out that the overwhelming majority of the 5.2 million new jobs, that is 86% were jobs created. I always say the forgotten men and women. Okay, identity politics. That's the Democrats. Yeah, for minorities. That's why we have record low. Another record set last week for African Americans, tying a record low unemployment for Hispanic Americans. We have record-setting job creation for women in the workplace. We have youth employment, record numbers of growth there, too. But I'm sure that, there was an interesting thing last night somebody pointed out to me in the Washington Examiner about this very topic. Don Lemon, who works over at CNN, I would think maybe in spite of his disagreements with Trump's style, his desire for impeachment, and CNN's fake news hatred of all things Donald Trump, you'd think people would be happy. Apparently not. He's worried. seems to be in full panic mode about the unemployment numbers that came out. And literally, from the Washington Examiner, I will read this week's liberal media scream features CNN host Don Lemon urging black voters not to believe President Trump's success in reducing black unemployment to historic lows. So you basically said, what, don't believe the truth? Don't look at the truth? Don't accept the truth? You want this is to you that this is successful? Instead, in one of his segments, he said that black Americans should focus on the president's racist behavior. This came after the department highlighted that black unemployment, another record low last week under Donald Trump. He literally said black unemployment hits a record low. Black voters weigh the numbers against the president's racist comments. Then he goes on that we want to talk about the new news and your opinions from the Labor Department, et cetera, et cetera. Then he keyed up an analyst here and, said the black unemployment rate is falling to a record low. Good news is only part of the story. And you extrapolate out some of the points his guest makes on his show, and Lemon laid out the case to not credit Trump. Why? I mean, these are numbers. These are facts. This is incontrovertible. I mean, is that how far the fake news media in this country wants to take this thing? And I guess it is because, and the president saying last night, we're running against the media and the Democratic twosome in 2020. He's right. And the president rightly painted a pretty bleak picture of Democratic control, and he's right about that. I mean, and look at what they're doing. First thing they get back, and now they lost with Mueller. That was a 2.5-year hoax, lie, et cetera, going on. And now they want to continue this. Look at this. And we'll get into more detail later, but you got all these billionaires. If Elizabeth Warren's wealth tax, it's only 2 cents. That's what only 2 cents. No, it's not only 2 cents. Because when you bear down and you look at the tax and you look at the numbers, well, the numbers are significant. Now, maybe you're thinking, well, they can afford it. Okay, well, let's say Jeff Bezos, who I don't particularly like, Warren Buffett, he's not a conservative. Bill Gates isn't a conservative. Mark Zuckerberg's not a conservative. Larry Ellison, I would argue, is more conservative. He runs Oracle out on the West Coast. I don't know. I've never met any of them. I don't know anything about them, except I know some of their politics from reading the papers every day. Bezos owns the Washington Post, for example. Anyway, Elizabeth Warren, if the wealth tax gets to what they want it to be, they're going to see, let's see, $160 billion. Or they're going to see, he, in the case of Bezos, will lose $86.8 billion. Bill Gates, he would lose a $36 billion. $29 billion for Buffett, $44 billion for Zuckerberg. $23 billion for Ellison. Now, they paid all their taxes, whatever their liability was. If they didn't pay it, I would otherwise assume that they're going to be in jail, like the rest of us. If they didn't pay it, we would have heard. And I'm sure. Look, I know how the IRS system works, and what they do. And at what point do you not say, okay, this is a bad country to do business in? And Elizabeth Warren, the hypocrite that she is, she's decrying big money fundraisers as president, but yet she racked up checks at all these events for her Senate reelection bid last year, and she won praise from the left, announcing she wouldn't hold private events for rich donors to fund her 2020 campaign. She wants to give equal access to every person who gives her money, no matter what the amount. Everyone wants to be a part of our grassroots movement, she's saying. However, she was able to bankroll the outset of this campaign with millions and millions of dollars collected at events in New York City and Philly and Silicon Valley and Martha's Vineyard in Boston, and, last hosted by Powell broker John Conyers Jr. And Warren, a lot of money from rich people. What's she going to do now? By the way, Biden had to finally admit he made a misrepresentation. This is when he's about immediately opposing the Iraq war. I guess you can credit this show and the Hannity TV show for pointing out his mischaracterization that he had conveniently lost and forgot about. But this is your new radical extreme Democratic Party. We got Kamala Harris. I mean, she's literally agreeing with the Salon editor on police officers. Quote, they just harass and take up space in poor communities. Wow. Saying that the person, Salon's editor at large, was, quote, right about police officers after he made that claim. And they released a 31-minute campaign video Monday that included Harris speaking with black leaders about the U.S. criminal justice system. Oh, let me see. Who's the guy that just reformed the criminal justice system? Who is the guy that released Alice Marie Johnson? That would be Donald Trump. Who's the one that got rid of disparate sentencing, powder versus crack cocaine, and is pushing towards other reforms in this area? Who's pushing those ideas? Oh, that would be the president of the United States of America currently. That would be, by the way, all the right thing to do. Marianne Williamson has just lost her mind, but I think the big story of the day is this whole, CNN fake news debacle again. I mean, it's never ending. Now, what's fascinating, this is in light of after Mueller died for fake news, CNN, conspiracy TV, MSNBC, and after he testified, they're kind of getting off that. And they've gone away from all of that. And what's even more fascinating is you get down deeper into the weeds here. You get to see CNN and MSNBC, this whole issue involving the CIA. Well, the CIA gave them a huge beatdown today. And wait till you hear this story. We'll get to that when we get back. 800-941-SEAN is our number. Hey, listen, I want to remind you about Simply Safe Home Security. Look, burglary happens every 23 seconds right here in this great country of ours. That's intolerable. That's by the FBI. 2 million burglaries reported every year in the census. 20 out of 1,000 households burglarized in 2017, Bureau of Justice Statistics. And guess what? Only 1 in 5 homes have home security. And many of you have had bad experiences with home security companies. Simply Safe has fixed everything wrong with the home security industry, and they do it with the latest, greatest, safest, best technology. And that means no installation fee, no contract to sign, no hidden fees, no fine print. You got around-the-clock, 24/7 monitoring, $15 a month. That's it. And you can take the system with you when you move. One thing that makes Simply Safe stand out, they also have their brand-new video verification technology. In other words, some home security systems are triggered. Well, a lot of police are thinking, probably a false alarm, but not with Simply Safe. With video verification technology, they are visually able to confirm the break-in is real and happening. That allows police to get there on average 3.5 times faster than all these other companies. Now, to get your own system, go to simplysafehannity.com. And by the way, right now you'll get a free HD security camera when you order. It's that simple. No installation fees. That's right. None. No contract to sign. $15 a month. Simplysafehannity.com. Simplysafehannity.com.
While the mainstream media is asleep at the wheel, Hannity Watch is on the job, bringing you the news no one else can. Sean Hannity.
I'm going to get into the CIA story. I'm going to really develop it for you so you can explain it after the bottom of the hour. John Bolton out as National Security Advisor. I don't know what goes on inside the White House.
Breaking news
but,
now.
Sean, I'm very sorry to interrupt you. We have extreme breaking news.
Okay.
Today is the 18th anniversary of your national syndication on radio.
I know I don't ever like to talk about it. You know better, but thank you.
Congratulations, boss. You made it 18 years.
And
I know it's a sad day.
I don't
but
like
it's
to
still
think
an
about it
accomplishment.
because the next day we know what happened. We started in the day before 9/11. I don't think, for me, it's not something I ever want to talk about. But I appreciate it. I know you guys planned that.
It's a very awkward thank you, but you're welcome.
No, I appreciate it.
I know exactly what you mean. It's a bittersweet victory to make it 18 years, but...
And, I'm going to tell you something. Look at the war. We just, we finally wiped out ISIS in Syria. Look how long it's taken. Look at the Taliban, still killing Americans in Afghanistan.
But thank God we have you as a national voice.
Well, that's very nice.
We have that, right, guys?
Thank you. We have the greatest team in radio and TV. There's no ambiguity about that. Our team is going to learn how to turn on their microphones and say that. Yeah, maybe they need to learn that, but we'll see.
Turn them on and everybody tell them how much we appreciate.
No, I don't want that. No, stop.
You're great.
I'm the big boss. Remember?
You're the big boss. You're talent.
Yeah,
Sean, I've listened to you since I was in preschool.
That is really scary. That Kylie was listening to me in preschool.
I got in trouble.
Kylie
in
and Katie
grade.
are more recent hires. You got in trouble in fourth grade for what?
My teacher told my mom that I think that I'm Sean Hannity.
All right, now I feel like
here you are.
And here you are. Here you are. Your dreams have come true. Wow. And we haven't even shattered Ethan's illusion.
Just so you know, I never listened to you before I got here.
She told my parents that I need to realize that my opinions are merely opinions and not facts, just like Sean Hannity.
Whoa. Ouch. I didn't know that.
My parents listen to you every day.
I know your mom. I've met Mom. Mom is
Mom
amazing.
and Dad both listen to you.
And Dad, too. The McLaughlins.
And Liam.
All right. Bolton out. We'll get to that. We have this is pretty amazing. The CIA ripping the misguided, simply false reporting on alleged CIA spies' extraction from the Kremlin. We've got the details. Fake news blew it again. Shocking. Straight ahead.
Breaking news all afternoon. When you get off work, be sure to check in first for everything you missed during the day. This is the Sean Hannity Show.
All right, 25 to the top of the hour. Look, when I read all the articles when somebody leaves the White House, oh, big deal. Look, there's obviously a story behind it. There's a reason behind it. And if you listen to for example, Washington Post, they will suggest that the root of this is the fact that Secretary of State Pompeo and Bolton were clashing all the time. If you listen to fake news, CNN, they will tell you, quote, it is the leaking. That is what got him. Then you have Bolton saying, let's be clear, I resigned. And the president sending out a tweet that he informed Bolton of his firing Monday night, explaining he strongly disagreed with many of his suggestions, as did others in the administration. But Bolton quickly sent out a tweet that when he offered Trump his resignation Monday night, Trump said, let's talk about it tomorrow. And so, look, it happens. I mean, in administrations, some people clash, some people don't get along, different styles. Maybe my guess it might have had something to do with even the possibility of sitting down with the Taliban. I don't know, though, or other disagreements. I know that he is a very strong believer in understanding the nature of radical Islam, the dangers that the world that exist in the world. But I also know that the president loves having varying opinions around him. I know for a fact that he likes to have people with this view, this view, this view, this view, and this view, and he listens to them all. I've seen it myself. I've watched it unfold once or twice, maybe, possibly, without confirming. All right, let me get into this because this is really important. And this is deep state news. This is also about your corrupt media mob. And it is as bad as it has ever been. So yesterday, the CIA, last night, slammed CNN fake news and actually said what they are reporting, their national security reporter or correspondent, is misguided, and it is simply, again, I'll use their words, false. After fake news CNN's chief national security correspondent authored a hole-filled piece claiming that the CIA had pulled a high-level spy out of Russia. Oh, we spy on Russia too? I am shocked. Aren't all of you shocked about that? Who would have ever thunk it that we spy back? Interfering in elections? Oh, yeah, Ukraine is offering us the evidence that they tried to help Hillary, but nobody really cares. Or the fact that Obama himself tried to unseat a ally of ours, the Prime Minister of Israel, Bibi Netanyahu. And we have State Department dollars that were involved in that case, and a lot of his operatives on the ground in Israel to unseat Bibi Netanyahu. But I guess it only matters if it's Trump-Russia collusion. Forget the dirty dossier, not verified, the warnings it's not verified. And then, of course, it is the bulk of information in the, FISA application. And as McCabe said, the deputy FBI director, no dossier, no warrant. But, and by the way, we have tapes and video of all this. Anyway, so they claimed that in this fake news CNN piece, the CIA had pulled a high-level spy out of Russia because President Trump had repeatedly mishandled classified intelligence and could contribute to exposing the covert source as a spy. And the extraordinary CIA rebuke came as the fake news New York Times, they published a bombshell late in the evening that contradicted CNN fake news' reporting. And according to the Times, CIA officials, they made the arduous decision in late 2016 to offer to extract the source from Russia. Let me tell you something about the spying business. I might have, interviewed a spy or two, an undercover guy a time or two. I might have my own sources. I know I'm a talk show host, but what would I know about reporting? Well, we can produce thousands of hours of straight news reporting from TV and radio. And thousands of hours of investigative reporting. On the deep state, for example, information we got that the news media was too lazy to get that didn't fit their narrative. We do that too. We give opinion as well. And then we talk sports and culture also. We're like the entire newspaper, which gives us a lot of freedom that they don't have. But, it doesn't stop them. I mean, they act like they're fair, balanced, objective. They're anything but. Anyway, so the New York Times rebuts fake news CNN. And then concern about the media reporting and the Russian election interference drove the decision, according to the Times, which described the source as the American government, the best insight into the thinking of the orders from Russian President Putin. Former intel officials said there was no public evidence that Mr. Trump ever directly endangered any source at all, ever, and other current American officials insisting the media scrutiny of the CIA and the agency's sources alone was the impetus for the extraction. And the Times wrote that in other words, fake news caused this. Now, there are times throughout history where the press is asked by their government, please don't report this for reasons involving national security. I can tell you right now, if Barack Obama ever called my show or got in contact with me or had somebody at the CIA contact Sean Hannity and say, we know you got this story, but there's people's lives in jeopardy here. American lives in jeopardy. Barack Obama, I'm saying president. I'd say, how can I help my fellow Americans? And there have been instances where, in the olden days, the media actually had a conscience and a soul, but that's long gone. But these concerns about the media, what drove the decision? Again, the New York Times is saying the exact opposite of fake news CNN. And the purported spy actually refused the extraction in 2016, citing family concerns. But the CIA pressed again months later after more media inquiries threatened the source. Now, again, think about this, that what they're saying is intelligence officials, there is no evidence that Trump directly endangered the source. Other current officials insisting that it was the media scrutiny of the agency and the agency's sources alone, that was the impetus for the extraction. Now, here's where it gets even more interesting. These developments into late last night, NBC News reporting that a possible Russian spy, a Russia spy, was now living under apparent U.S. protection using his true identity in Washington, D.C. Why don't we just give the address out next? And by the way, that his life could be in danger. Sources told NBC News that the Russian living in Washington was the same individual who was referenced in the reporting by fake news CNN and the New York Times. And NBC said, quote, he fits the profile of someone who may have had access to information about Putin's activities. All right, so the guy didn't want to leave. He wanted to keep doing his job, and he needed to protect his family. So, and everybody that actually knows something, unlike CNN, recognizes that they don't know what they're talking about. So anyway, and you have an NBC reporter who knocked at the Russians' door, was apparently confronted by unidentified men in an SUV. Now, they were presumed to be security personnel within minutes. And then speculation about the purported spy's identity using publicly available records. Well, then that quickly, in case you're interested, circulated on social media. After NBC News, Conspiracy Theory News their report revealed identifiable details about this guy's living situation. Now, maybe a little common sense could have been applied here. Knowing Putin to be the hostile actor that he is, knowing the punitive accusations that have happened in the past about poisoning other people, knowing that Russia has been involved in attacking our elections and everybody else's now for a long, long time, maybe they would have had a little bit of discretion that they could have used to protect the possible revelation of the identity of this guy. But Conspiracy TV, NBC, they don't care either. Why would they? And so it goes on from there. That speculation about the spy's identity using these public records, that circulates. NBC News pushes out that information, which would make it easier for Russians to find out where this guy at the center of these reports actually is. We know now he's in D.C., and he worked in the presidential administration, but was fired, did not have access to Putin. All right, so the CIA and what they're saying, they got to make life and death decisions every single day. And I happen to have met with Gina Haspel. I met her once when I was in Washington. And I got to tell you, the stuff that these people do every day threatens lives. The stuff that she and others were involved in post 9/11 saved American lives. I can tell you that with 1,000% certainty and confirmation. In other words, numerous sources confirmed to me what she did to protect this country right after 9/11. That's the 9/11 anniversary is tomorrow. So the speculation by the media, the false reporting by the media then, quote, using publicly available records, that's all getting out now to the American people. And that would mean Russia's paying attention, probably pretty darn close attention, all of this. And CNN's narrative that the CIA makes life and death decisions based on anything from objective analysis, sound collection, is simply false. I'm sorry, but the CIA was right, which they normally wouldn't do, to send out their public affairs representative and put out a statement, misguided speculation that the president's handling of our nation's most sensitive intelligence, which he has access to each and every day, drove an alleged, removal of this particular guy is inaccurate. And then according to, by the way, the report by the CNN chief national security correspondent, former Obama administration official. Now, isn't that interesting? Oh, the decision to carry out the distraction occurred soon after a May 2017 meeting in the Oval Office in which the president discussed highly classified intelligence, blah, 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 with those two Russians that were there at the time, which the media made a big deal about. That wasn't, as usual. But it was, you look at all of this and you're thinking, what is wrong with these people? The CIA has to extract a Kremlin mole that we have out of concerns that the media scrutiny would expose the longtime spy. That was in the New York Times. Former intelligence officials, this gets more interesting, like John Brennan and Clapper, they expressed concerns that Trump and Attorney General Barr might leak intelligence. Yeah, those two lecturing anybody about leaking is a bit of a joke, isn't it? But those concerns appear misdirected, as it appears that officials in the intelligence community have provided information to the press about this key Kremlin asset. And the president's order granting declassification authority to Barr for the Russia-related information generated that I've been telling you will eventually come out, generated backlash from media pundits, former intelligence community officials. Yeah, you see, they don't want that information out because that exposes the absolute deep knowledge and level of the lies they were peddling and the conspiracy theories they were peddling. They don't want any of this out. Now, the concern is that very precious source and methods of the intelligence community, as well as our partners and allies abroad, those who share sensitive information with us, former CIA Director Brennan said, yeah, because Brennan doesn't want an investigation into whether or not during his tenure, his CIA and others in the intel community were unwilling to obey the laws of the United States of America. I'd like an answer to that question. Did they outsource intelligence gathering to some of our allies for the very purpose of circumventing American laws so they could do their darn level best to try and undo an election and get rid of a duly elected president of the United States? That, I think, is what is going to be at the heart of what will be the Durham Barr Report or the Durham Report. And when you look at the New York Times and Washington Post reporting that inquiries from the media about the CIA sources for the Russia investigation prompted the decision to remove this spy. And in 2016, the CIA offered to help the asset, but he refused. In 2017, he had no choice. He had to finally agree. And then NBC comes in with their conspiracy theories that a longtime Russia spy is living in D.C. under his own name. Great job. Awesome. Way to protect, American heroes that are helping this country. And then fake news CNN using their former Obama, now employee, they go out with the fake story that now it results in literally what has to be a moment of great concern for this guy and his family. This is how reckless, this is how irresponsible these people are. So let me ask you a question. Maybe you have all sorts of, coverage. Maybe, for example, most of us keep our cars now, I guess more than 5 years if you buy a car, right? Unless you're leasing it. If you keep your car 5 years, all right, you're under warranty. But what happens at the fifth year? Well, that's what CarShield is all about, carshield.com. And they have a toll-free number, 800-CAR-6000. Now, for example, your engine light goes on. Uh-oh, that scares you. What if you have an expensive repair? Uh-oh, yeah, I'm past the 5-year mark, 4-year mark, 3-year mark, powertrain, whatever it happens to be. Well, CarShield is the ultimate in extended vehicle protection. Now, this is what they offer you. And maybe you can get rid of some of these old, outdated services. They will provide 24/7 roadside assistance, and you get a free rental car. They pay for it while your car is being fixed. 2, CarShield lets you choose whether you want the expensive repair fixed by your favorite mechanic or your dealership. You get to choose. If your car has even 150,000 miles on it, maybe it just has 10 or 15 or 20, yeah, they've got a plan for you. And by the way, I can pretty much assure you it's going to be better than whatever your car dealership is offering. Real simple. Protect your car the way I did. CarShield, and that's 800-CAR-6000 and carshield.com. carshield.com, 800-CAR-6000, promo code Hannity. You're going to save even more money.
Hannity uncovers the real truth about the politics of D.C. He's your watchdog on Big Brother. Every day, Hannity is on right now.
All right, as we roll along, Sean Hannity Show. So there's your news media. CIA extracts a Kremlin mole out of concerns the media scrutiny would expose the longtime spy. Former Obama official, chief national foreign policy reporter for fake news CNN gets it all wrong. Then they go running to Brennan and Clapper about leaking intelligence. You can't get any more sick than this.
Would you ban offshore drilling? Absolutely yes. I will ban offshore drilling. One of the reasons I love the framing of the Green New Deal is it uses some of the language that we might associate with the way that we met the response of Nazi Germany in World War II.
But if Donald Trump is reelected, Freudian slip, Donald Trump does pose an existential threat to this. It's not hypothetical.
Freedom is back in style. Welcome to the revolution.
Yeah, we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song.
Sean Hannity. The new Sean Hannity Show. More behind-the-scenes information on breaking news and more bold, inspired solutions for America.
All right, glad you're with us. Hour 2, Sean Hannity Show. We have a lot of deep state news, a lot we broke last night. One of the things that has bothered me from the beginning of this is the treatment of a 33-year veteran to this country, and that being General Michael Flynn. And when you think now, what we know now and what we didn't know at the time about General Flynn, it is stunning. And if this is how we're going to treat people that put their lives in harm's way for us, we've got a big problem. Because initially we believed and discovered that, yeah, they probably had, in fact, surveilled, unmasked, and even leaked raw intelligence involving General Flynn. That was our belief in the beginning, and I'm trying to go back into the recesses of my mind and figure this all out, where what started when and where. But then we had McCabe and Comey involved in bragging, how they literally took advantage of chaos. Remember, James Comey said when he testified before Congress that, in fact, he did something he would never do. No, I'm sorry. This wasn't before Congress. This was in an interview on stage. And he actually said, this is something I wouldn't do to either the Bush or the Obama administrations. And, oh, yeah, I absolutely took advantage of the chaos that took place in the Trump White House on day 4 of the Trump presidency.
You look at this White House now, and it's hard to imagine 2 FBI agents ending up in the same room. How did that happen?
I sent them. Something I probably wouldn't have done or maybe gotten away with in a more organized investigation, a more organized administration, in the George W. Bush administration, for example, or the Obama administration. The protocol, 2 men that all of us have perhaps increased appreciation for over the last 2 years. And in both of those administrations, there was process. And so if the FBI wanted to send agents into the White House itself to interview a senior official, you would work through the White House counsel, and there'd be discussions and approvals and who would be there. And I thought, it's early enough. Let's just send a couple guys over.
Let's just send them over. Now, prior to that, when General Flynn had heard, and he was the incoming national security advisor, that FBI guys wanted to talk to him, well, he had said, he called McCabe and said, hey, do I need a lawyer for this? No, not at all. That's not an investigation of any kind. No, you don't need a lawyer. Well, in fact, it was an investigation. And in fact, yeah, that would mean that General Flynn was denied his constitutional Miranda rights. He has a new attorney in this case who, thank goodness he's got her, Sidney Powell. And remember, she wrote the book License to Lie. And she's the one that exposed Andrew Weissman as somebody who withheld exculpatory evidence and all of his tactics and shenanigans that we've all watched unfold, you know, with these pre-dawn raids and throwing people into solitary confinement. You know, pre-dawn raids, frogmen at Roger Stone's house. Roger Stone never had a gun in his life. Roger Stone, you just had to tell his attorney, or Manafort's attorney, to turn themselves in. They would have been there on time. Sidney Powell joins us now because it was a big hearing from today, and she's going to update us on all that happened. And Sidney, it's great to have you back. How are you?
Thanks, Sean. My pleasure.
Please, well, bring us up to speed, and then we'll work our way back. What happened today?
Well, we had a status conference today in front of Judge Sullivan, and it became more of a hearing than a status conference. He has tentatively scheduled sentencing for December, but in the meantime, he is going to address the very serious Brady issues that we've raised, the failure of the government to produce exculpatory evidence to Mr. Flynn that they have had long before he entered his first plea of guilty. Some of it is absolutely stunning, not the least of which includes that special counsel themselves knew that about Comey's ambush interview of General Flynn and his whole plan to do that as early as November 15 of 1917, long before he pled guilty. And 2017. And he also knew that, and this is even more remarkable, January 30th, there's an internal memo in the Department of Justice that discloses that they had exonerated Flynn of any sort of Russia violation as of January 30th, 2017.
Let me read from your filing, because I think this is very important. People understand this was your filing in support of the motion to compel production of Brady material, and in order to show cause, you said that the government has not complied with their Brady obligations and their belated letters and productions. You point out that a prosecution team has admitted they are in possession of evidence favorable to the defense. They have steadfastly refused production of the actual evidence, and that would include FBI 302 specifically requested, information identified in the Mueller report, and information specifically exonerating General Flynn. And the most stunning suppression of evidence is perhaps the text messages of Strzok and Page. And in July of 2017, the Inspector General of the Department of Justice advised the special counsel of the extreme bias and the now infamous text messages of these two FBI employees. And you pointed out they didn't produce a single text message to the defense until March 13, 2018. Now, what happened today is I understand that Judge Emmett Sullivan set a December 18 sentencing deadline for Flynn, and you made clear that you considered the case far from resolved, but you did say you were not seeking to have his guilty plea thrown out. That surprised me, but I know how smart you are. I'm sure you have a better reason than I could come up with.
Well, I said we're not necessarily planning to withdraw the plea. What I intend to seek and will likely seek, depending on what additional evidence shows and the more pieces I put together every day, is that the entire prosecution will be dismissed for egregious government misconduct and the outrageous suppression of Brady material from day one.
Well, and this judge in this case, now I know he was a little harsh at one point to your client, which surprised me, and I think he came back after a recess and said, I think I might have misspoke on something, but it kind of scared me as somebody that thinks that, listening to McCabe and knowing what Comey did, that I feel he was denied his simple, basic, fundamental constitutional rights when they basically said you don't need a lawyer, and he did need a lawyer, and the way they set him up. And then even after that, the FBI agents that interviewed him, did they not conclude that he was not lying? Did they conclude that they concluded they thought he was being truthful, didn't they?
Yes, they did. And on top of that, we now know that McCabe, at least as early as February 8th, if not prior to that, had also cleared him of any potential Logan Act violation.
Logan Act. How many people have been prosecuted under the Logan Act, Sidney Powell?
Right. Yeah, I think it's none. There might have been one way back when, but they wound up getting acquitted, if I remember correctly.
Does that take us back to what, the 1700s or something?
Yes, something like that. It's absolutely preposterous. It was a pretextual basis for them to go over there in the first place, if that's even what they claimed they were investigating then, because the FBI doesn't have a right to go interview the incoming national security advisor to the president over foreign policy choices. And they knew from having listened to the tape of his conversations with Kislyak that he had done absolutely nothing wrong. So the whole thing was a pretext from the beginning.
John Solomon, our friend from the Hill, wrote an article about the exculpatory evidence withheld in the Flynn case and what the American people should know. And you have been very, very strong and very clear in saying that the entire prosecution, that would be Mueller's team, that would be Weissman, who you wrote at length about in License to Lie, should be dismissed because of their egregious misconduct, and that there's far more at stake here than the sentencing of General Flynn. And you were very bold in accusing the government of being too busy working on what they wanted to accomplish in convicting Mr. Flynn to seek truth or justice. Why do I suspect, if the FBI didn't think he was lying even after they sandbagged General Flynn, why do I suspect, and based on some of your public comments and some of your written comments that I've seen, that in fact that the pressure that you discuss in the filing put on General Flynn was, okay, the guy was going bankrupt, he had no more money for lawyers, and he had to sell his house, and they probably said, well, your son's in business with you. If you don't agree that you lied, we're going after your kid. Why do I suspect that probably happened?
Well, there was extraordinary pressure put on General Flynn to enter his plea of guilty under a very onerous time constraint while they were hiding the evidence that showed the entire thing was a pretext and that he'd been exonerated of a Logan Act violation, that he'd been exonerated of being an agent of Russia, and that, come to find out just from a Brady production a couple of weeks ago, he had also briefed the Defense Intelligence Agency before he ever met with the Turkish officials that was supposedly part of the basis for the big FARA violation. And we found even more evidence with respect to how manipulated all of that was. Not to mention, they had to have sat on the press to suppress the page stroke text message issue because it burst into the press the day after they cajoled Mr. Flynn into pleading guilty.
Let me ask you, and I think this is very important, where is this case going from your perspective? What are we going to learn about General Flynn? And, you know, I know publicly before you got involved in the case, you thought withdrawing a plea may be a good idea. You're leaving the door open for that.
Yes, I haven't completely closed the door on it, but I think it's going to be, if everything I keep finding continues to prove to be true, we're looking at egregious Brady violations and a dismissal of the entire prosecution.
Can you just chronicle, because I've been following this pretty closely, Sydney, and I'm very aware of your history and the great things that you have done in terms of prosecutorial misconduct and exposing such, probably great peril to yourself. I don't think there's any better lawyer that General Flynn can have. Can you just tell people what you think went on here?
I think it was completely a pretext for the agents to go over to interview him that day at all. I think he was the subject of an illegal unmasking, an illegal leak of his conversation with Ambassador Kislyak. At the same time, the people that were listening to the conversation and reviewing the transcripts knew he had done absolutely nothing wrong because he was incoming national security advisor and he was just doing his job. So it was essentially a setup from the beginning and a relentless pursuit by the Department of Justice Special Counsel's office to find something to pin on him.
Do you believe when those agents went into the office and took advantage of the chaos as directed by Mr. Super Patriot James Comey, do you believe that they had illegally unmasked General Flynn? Do you believe that there's a possibility they had access to the entire transcript of what they wanted to know, and that would be a conversation that he might have had with some Russian ambassador guy?
Oh, yes. It's very clear now that they had the entire transcript. And General Flynn knew they had the transcript. He knew that call was being recorded. And he had absolutely no reason to lie about it at all. He remembered what he could remember when he was blindsided by them showing up in his office that day, not having thought about any of that for a good while. And the whole thing is just reeks from the get-go.
All right, Sidney Powell, attorney for General Michael Flynn, at the sentencing, at the hearing today. Sentencing date is set for December the 18th. Quick break. We'll come back. License to Lie is her best-selling book. By the way, I would find a copy of this. This book is worth going through. If you don't think some prosecutorial misconduct takes place, you know, remember, Mueller didn't know that Jeannie Ray worked for the Clinton Foundation. Mueller didn't know what Fusion GPS was. Who was running that office? That's the question. You know about my friends at Tecovas. Remember, they sold everything. They ran up their credit card debt. They sold their car. They lived in their cars. And what they did is create a company that I wish I was a part of in terms of owning, because they create the single greatest Western-style boots, cowboy boots, duffel bags, wallets, you name it, they got it all. And guess what? They don't use any retailer. You get the best quality, the greatest craftsmanship, 200 steps, separate steps to build one boot. And they pass all that savings on to you. You're getting the best boots for the best price. Nobody comes close. Everybody on my team here that has their Tecovas boots now. Yeah, I know. I'm the fashion trend center on the team because I've been wearing them for years in terms of cowboy boots. Now I just have better ones because I have Tecovas. Right now you'll get free, and they never do this, a $45 value hand-stitched calfskin card case. I have it. It's beautiful bourbon color. If you just make a $150 purchase. When you get Tecovas, you're going to realize, you know anything about Western boots, you're going to know how great this is. Tecovas.com/Hannity, TECOVAS.com/Hannity.
If you're
get out of the media spin room, you've come to the right place. This is the Sean Hannity Show.
Page stroke text message was produced to the defense prior to General Flynn's plea. At the same time, they hid Comey's knowledge and having told them that he had completely ambushed General Flynn, dispatched the agents on purpose, taking advantage of the whole situation at the White House. It was all very carefully planned. We now know also that there was a meeting, a very well-orchestrated planning meeting between high-ranking members of the FBI to plan the ambush interview of General Flynn. I mean, it's all going to be coming out.
All right, Sidney Powell, attorney, thank you for General Michael Flynn. Thank you for being with us. We'll put information, I guess, for General Flynn up on Hannity.com. A lot of people asking about it. We'll be glad to help. We wish you the best, Sidney. We'll come back. Yeah, the border's out of control. We're going to explain something that, well, who's aiding and abetting?
Sean's got more behind-the-scenes information, more contacts than anybody, more friends behind the curtain. Sean Hannity is on.
All right, 25 till the top of the hour. The pace of the border wall construction has now doubled under President Trump. Now, I know a lot of conservatives, you all got upset with me because, Hannity, the president gave up on working with Congress to get the monies to build the wall, and he's given up, and you're letting him give up, and you're not. No, I said at the time that he shifted strategies, and he identified the legislation that had been passed by Congress that gives the president of the United States the authority to build barriers, put up lighting, and all sorts of other things if, in fact, they identify drug corridors. Well, that would be the whole southern border. That's where 90% of the heroin in this country comes in. We're losing nearly 300 Americans a week to opioid overdoses. Worse now with fentanyl, also a lot of it crossing that southern border. Anyway, so that has taken away. Now, we've been chronicling all of these illegal immigrants in the country and some of the crimes they have committed. Most recently, we have the 8th illegal immigrant since July 25th. Now, this case, a Nigerian national charged in Montgomery County, Maryland, for rape, marking the 8th illegal immigrant to be charged with rape or other sexual assault crimes in this particular county. 26-year-old guy from Nigeria, allegedly raping a woman in her car, according to ABC 7. Federal immigration authorities confirmed that he's an illegal immigrant. He lives in Fairfax, Virginia, currently being held on a $250,000 bond. Statement from the federal immigration authorities confirmed the fact that he was living in the U.S. unlawfully. And ICE officials, well, they lodged a detainer with the Montgomery County Detention Center on unlawfully present Nigerian in the country, being arrested and so on and so forth. And, he was on a rideshare driver accused of. Now, even Tulsi Gabbard, the only one Democrat, saying, Democrats are pushing for essentially open borders. That is in the news. But here's some good news. And thanks to the president's policies, what we have now noticed is they're working. And the president got the money reallocated from the Defense Department, securing another $3.6 billion, and saying that he expects by this time next year going to have at least 400 miles of new wall built, in spite, as Nancy Pelosi's furious that she couldn't stop him. Number of aliens apprehended now at the border fell 22% from July to August. Apprehensions and inadmissibles declined to just over 64,000, and that's down by more than 82,000 in July. The number of illegal aliens arriving at our border declined 56% since the peak in May. And this is the first time that 5 years that the border apprehensions decreased from July to August. Now, the president's taken a lot of actions to get to the bottom of all of this. And Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kevin McAleenan is with us, and he joins us on our Newsmaker line. How are you, sir?
Good, Sean. Good to be with you again.
Well, I saw the president negotiated with Guatemala to have migrants apply for asylum rather than just making the journey to the U.S. The president negotiated with Mexico, and they have stepped up their enforcement of their own borders to stop the flood of migrants. Mexico apprehended, 134,000 people in just the past few months. So a lot of big changes are occurring. Where are we?
Yeah, the dynamic is changing at the border, no question. And you just gave your listeners the key numbers, 56% decrease in 3 months since the president engaged Mexico and really generated a lot of energy in that diplomatic relationship. And we've seen an unprecedented operational response from the government of Mexico, about 25,000 National Guard troops now dedicated to immigration enforcement and border security at both their southern and their shared border with us. And that's making an impact on the flow. We also have been working with Central America, as you noted, signed agreements with Guatemala, signed agreement with El Salvador, working on agreements with Honduras and Panama as well, because that's going to stop this flow at the earliest possible point and protect those people that need asylum, supporting those countries, developing their own systems, but also going after the cartels and the smugglers that are profiting on smuggling vulnerable families and children toward our border.
Let's talk about how long this is going to take. Now, the president had a lot of the border wall that needed repair. Where are we with that? The president's saying he expects a total of about 500 miles will be built by the end of 2020. Now, do we have enough funds with the reallocated defense funds that the president's using and the money that he was able to secure from Congress? Together, we're looking at, $5 billion more than what he has now?
That's right. Yeah, we're looking at 450 to 500 miles by the end of next year. And just a few months ago when I was on your show, I think we had about 35 miles built. We're now at 65 miles. And that pace of construction is increasing every week. And with the added funding from DOD, we're really going to be able to step it up and start securing the border in key areas where we haven't had infrastructure in the past.
Okay, let's talk about how many miles have been repaired. I know over 65 miles. A new wall have been built, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah, that 65 miles of new wall system in places where we either had a dilapidated 25-year-old scrap metal wall that was falling apart, or we had only a vehicle barrier, which doesn't do very much if people are going to walk across or try to climb over it. So now we've got either an 18-foot wall with an anti-climb plate or a 30-foot wall in key strategic locations that's already changed our security levels in both San Diego, Calexico, California, as well as out in El Paso, Texas. And we're about to break ground in Rio Grande Valley, our top priority sector, on brand new wall in an area that hasn't had any barrier in the past to help us control that high traffic corridor.
Are you experiencing any resistance from any of the border states?
No, we're not. We're working very well with the governors and the landowner process.
Oh, wait a minute. Have you talked to Governor Newsom yet? Because I don't think he's exactly the best person to be negotiating with. But anyway.
Well, we don't have to negotiate with them because we're building on federal land. And frankly, I have to ask the California stakeholders who have benefited from the added security of the wall. They're very happy that it's in place. But we're also purchasing land where we need to, and that's a process of working with private landowners, mostly in Texas. That's also going very well. And what I want to highlight, Sean, is we're building wall faster than we've ever done before. Back in the early 2000s, when we built the first several hundred miles of additional wall, it took us about 2 years from getting the funding to actually starting construction. We're now doing it in 9 to 11 months. It's a very different process. Got it streamlined with the Army Corps of Engineers. And again, you're going to see that continue to accelerate over the coming months.
How many different companies have we, given this work to? I understand there's a lot of companies that have been bidding for the right to build the wall. Do we have different companies taking on different sections?
Exactly right. We've got a number of great American construction companies, a lot of capacity in the system. What the Army Corps does is they go ahead and down select capable contractors, and then when each new segment comes online, they go ahead and do a competitive bid for who can do it on budget and in the fastest period of time. So it's the best value, and we're getting very good bidders. They're delivering wall on time and on budget.
You know, it's pretty amazing that, we can do it if we have the will to do it. How about the money? What is the final figure that we're going to need if you want to build the 500 miles?
So we've got the money combined with the appropriations from 17, 18, and 19 that President Trump fought for, as well as the redirected money under the National Emergency Declaration from DOD counter-drug funding and from DOD military construction funding. So that combination, we've got about 205 miles from appropriated money from Congress, and the other 250 plus is going to come from the DOD funds.
So, in other words, the president still has other options in terms of now that he's identified monies that can be reallocated, and now that the president has done so, and Nancy Pelosi is complaining that they can't do it. What is the reason? Why were all these people on the Democratic Party side, they were all gung-ho about the wall? They sounded a lot like Donald Trump in the second term of Obama's presidency. Why have they said that this is a manufactured crisis? I think most Americans can see for themselves it's not manufactured.
Absolutely not. It's been a tremendous crisis that we're making great progress on, but it's because of the administration's policies and efforts, not only the international diplomacy, but adding that barrier on the border. You ask any Border Patrol agent, I've been doing this for 2 decades myself, working closely with the Border Patrol. This is the technology and capability they've needed from the beginning across multiple administrations. And what we have now is a president who supports that and is fighting hard to get the funding for it so that we can add that capability on the border.
Let's talk about the different aspects of what happens at the border. Am I correct in saying about 90% of the heroin in this country comes across that southern border?
That's correct. Not only heroin, but the more dangerous synthetics like fentanyl and carfentanil that are responsible for so many overdoses.
Well, you got fentanyl, and that is, from my understanding and what I've read is that, you can have what is the equivalent of a few grains of salt that'll kill a 250-pound man, and they're even lacing, weed, and every drug conceivable with this stuff, and people are dying left and right from overdoses. And is that coming across the southern border?
It is. It's also coming across in mail from China, but we're doing much better in interdicting it across.
All right. Well, listen, we want to wish you the best. We appreciate your time, Kevin McAleenan. Thank you so much for being with us. We're getting a bad line here. 800-941-SEAN is our number, toll free. Joe, Texas. What's up, Joe? How are you? Glad you called.
Hey, good afternoon, Sean. How you doing?
I'm good, my friend. What's happening?
My question is, if Sidney Powell gets all these charges dismissed against Michael Flynn, General Flynn, I felt like he's been railroaded from the get-go. And I have 34 years in law enforcement, and there was a lot of things that don't add up, that aren't right, that his rights were violated, and I won't go through all of them. But she gets all this thrown out. Is he going to be made whole again? Will his reputation be restored? How will that work?
How does that happen? I go back to the Reagan years and a guy by the name of Ray Donovan. And when he was finally exonerated after, the smears and the slander of the mob back then that is known as the media, he famously said, where do I go now to get my good name back? How do you get your good name back then?
Well, I mean, the FBI is responsible. Would Comey be directly responsible in addition to the FBI? I mean, looks like somebody should be held accountable for that.
I think that absolutely they should be held accountable. The problem is we don't hold people accountable, do we, anymore in this country?
No, and that's frustrating. That's frustrating, too.
How many years were you in law enforcement?
34.
Okay, 34 years. Could you imagine not giving somebody their Miranda rights? You have the right to remain silent. You have a right to, anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have a right to an attorney, blah, blah, blah. What would have happened in any case you didn't allow that to happen?
I never did that. I never did that without advising them of their rights, even if I wasn't going to arrest them. I just wanted them to know that they had the right to remain silent and have right to an attorney. Didn't have to talk to me if they didn't want to, just in case they said something that I've wound up having to use in court.
Right. So, in other words, you're an honorable law enforcement official that followed the rules and protected people's constitutional rights.
And I told them up front, look, this is just a formality. I want you to know your rights and that you don't have to talk to me, before you answer any questions. And you're not under arrest. I just, you need to know this so that we can talk and go ahead forward with the investigation.
All right, appreciate the call. Listen, Joe, thank you for all those years in law enforcement. 800-941-SEAN. You want to be a part of the program. I mean, he makes a great point. And I'm going to tell you what I think when Sidney Powell is discussing this abuse of power and what she's saying to us is really powerful, but you got to pay very close attention. I mean, she is laying out the case that, in fact, all of this happened because of the tactics that they're involved in. In other words, that his constitutional rights were violated. In other words, these were discussions that they had the full, complete transcripts of. They were telling him, no, you don't need an attorney. Oh, we're taking advantage of the chaos. Richard, Florida, next, Sean Hannity Show. What's up, Richard? How are you? Richard, glad you called.
Hey, Sean, it's so awesome to talk to you. I love you to death. I watch you religiously. You know what I want to tell you about the wall? I'm a combat veteran. Served this country faithfully for 18 years. That we need to build the wall and stop the influx of illegals coming over. My wife is from Philippines. We did it legally. Cost us over $3,000, but she's here legally trying to become a U.S. citizen. I support the president 100%.
So do I. Do it legally. Do it all legally. That's it. That's how my grandparents got here. All right, 800-941-SEAN is our number. By the way, you can start planning for the holiday season if you're going to need employees for the extra work. That's what ExpressPros.com is for. If you're looking for a job, they never charge a job seeker a penny. Hey, listen, I love these guys. Third generation, and that's Hustle or Turf. And by the way, remember the website, hustleorturf.com. Now, 3 generations, 1964 is when Hustler introduced their first zero-turn lawnmower, and they've been a leader in the lawn equipment industry ever since. Every single Hustler is engineered, designed, assembled right here in the USA with genuine U.S. parts. And Hustler makes high-quality, reliable mowers, gives you incredible performance. Now, if you haven't tried a Hustler yet, you need to go out, feel the super smooth steering, which gives you the superior comfort and control. This is what they've done now 3 generations. And the quality and smooth steering, that's only a couple of the reasons why Hustler mowers, they're trusted for decades now by professionals and by homeowners alike. And with this proud history of innovation, Hustler, is truly made for what matters. And anyway, go see their website. It's at hustlerturf.com today. Find the local retailer near you, and they're going to have what you're looking for. Doesn't matter if you're a professional, doesn't matter if you're a homeowner. Anyway, that's hustlerturf.com. Check them out today.
The final hour of the Sean Hannity Show is up next. Hang on for Sean's Conservative Solutions.
All right, a lot coming up today. We are loaded up. Kayleigh McEnany, Jeff Lord. Yeah, we've got a lot on the radical extremists that represent the Democratic Party today. Todd Starnes will check in. He's got a powerful, controversial new book. We'll get to that. We'll get to your phone calls. We got an amazing Hannity tonight, 9 Eastern on Fox. We got a lot of breaking news, including Sidney Powell, who was just on. We're going to handicap the 2016 race. And, yeah, Geraldo and Bongino go at it, which is always entertaining. 9 Eastern. Quick break. Right back.
American way. Of course, the next best thing to a seat in the stands is a seat in front front of a 19-inch RCA Victor television.
One more day to Labor Day weekend, the traditional occasion for tasty outdoor barbecues or picnics. Street. Transfer is available. 1.